am so excited that today we have really one of my new favorite photographers who has joined us in this conversation. It's Maria Jenkins from Canton, Ohio. And I became familiar with Maria's work when I was a guest artist at Bowling Green State University a number of years ago. And over the past couple of years, I've really been able to see her work blossom and her voice become so much of her own. And I just thought she'd be great for this series that we're doing. And Maria, thank you for joining us. To get the Zoom working in your favor, which I'm good acknowledging, is tell us a bit about where you are right now and what you're up to.
All right. So yeah, like you said, I'm Maria Jenkins, and again, thank you so much for having me and giving me this opportunity.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I just graduated from college a few weeks ago. And I have been working on my BFA show, which happened back in May. And then I've just been kind of taking different opportunities that I've had in my life to really explore my world of photography and what I want to say with it. A couple different, life markers, I guess you could say, and other events that my life has thrown me, which has caused me to, really open up in my photography and let my photography speak for the things that I have been going through in my life. So.
Yeah, no, that's well stated. So, I'm wondering, were you aware of photography before you started undergrad?
I was, yeah. I took a few black and white courses in my high school, so that's where it really all started, and that's where I really fell in love with the magic of darkroom photography.
Oh, seriously? Okay, so you came into Bowling Green State University with the idea of being a photography major or an art major.
Yeah, more or less. Yeah, I knew I wanted to do something with it. I just wasn't sure exactly what. And I didn't know the 4x5 even existed before I came to undergrad. So that really opened up my life and opened up the doors for the world of photography for me and what I really wanted to make.
Yeah, it's really been a powerful tool in your hands, the 4x5, for sure. Hey, let's introduce some of your work to the students. Maybe show us 5 images, and then we'll get into the get into your artist statement and things like that.
Okay, sounds good. So we have this image, and this is my friend Ashley. These images are all of my friends. They're just kind of, I don't want to say filler images, but they don't really have a project that has an overencompassing motif to it. Mm-hmm. So they're just different images that I've made of my friends. And I think I could go back and explore some of my friends and come up with more images to kind of come up with their own project. But
well, that idea of shooting your friends, like, was it intention, or was it like, to me this feels like it was intentional as opposed to, oh, just stand in while I test my camera type of shots?
Oh yeah, for sure. For me, my work is really about like telling people's story. And, everybody has a story. And to me, that's my job as a photographer in the fine arts world, is to tell their story, or at least a snippet of it anyways. So that's what I've wanted to do with my images. And so with my friend work, it's not a full body of work, obviously. It's just an image, but I'm still telling a story through that image of their life.
Oh, for sure. For sure. These are really beautiful. Let's let this one load here. And now, oftentimes we ask, I think artists ask themselves, or they ask, we ask other artists, like, do you consider yourself like a project photographer, or are you just about the singular image, if you know what I mean by that?
Yeah, I think for me personally, it's more about the singular image. With some of my projects, like the one of my mom, which we'll get to later, I think that one's been more of a project. And I think, some of them could become projects, but in the moment I'm just taking images because, like, oh, well, I want to tell a little bit more of their story. So
yeah. That's real interesting. So, in looking at, your graduate project, you had this really wonderful artist statement that I thought it would be good to read early on, in this
Hmm.
in this interview that we're doing. Why don't you bring that up and then I'll read it.
Okay, sounds good to me.
And the title I loved for a variety of reasons, photographic reasons and life reasons as well. Um, this is called The Pursuit of Magic. How does one restore hope back into such a bleak and strenuous world? Growing up, I had a privileged childhood filled with pleasant memories of summer vacations and time spent with loved ones. In my adolescent years, I was surrounded by everything Disney, including taking trips to the theme parks. Going there year after year and surrounding myself with their music and movies that filled my head and heart with many unrealistic possibilities. Over the years, as I've grown older, reality has overcome fantasy. Age, time, mental health, and self-esteem are just a few of the things that have taken away the ability to have the magic-filled life I once had. I have struggled watching others suffer and not be able to help. Just as I, myself, have slipped into this somber state, forever wishing I could snap my fingers and fix everything, like the movies. But just as every Disney protagonist knows, it's out of the darkness that we learn to see. And although you may not be able to see it at first glance, there is hope. The process of darkroom photography is the closest magic in the real world I have ever experienced. But the real magic began when I was introduced to the 4x5 camera. I was able to slow down and be deliberate in life, which is something I consider to be rare for me. With this camera, I am able to create the image in my head, then compose it right in front of me. Through my photography, I have been able to create a world of my own, combining the harsh realities that life has shown me, while also painting with light and shadows to instill hope back into my world. The rich contrast of black and white portrays the heaviness within these images, while also creating tonal values that are able to make the image come to life in a rather cinematic way. I choose to enlarge these images to a 20 by 24-inch size to fully immerse the viewer and make them just as vulnerable as my loved ones in the prints. The relationship between the photographer, the camera, the loved one in the photograph, and the surrounding environment should make the viewer feel the same longing and desperation to be at peace with oneself again. Maria Jenkins. You talk about maybe Disney-related magic, and then you kind of bring it down in the second paragraph to this idea of the only real magic in life is this, like darkroom photography. I forget how you phrased it there, but you acknowledge that kind of magic that I think anyone who has been introduced to photography through the darkroom experiences, in that.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
And I'm wondering, when did you experience that first?
I was in the 11th grade,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that was 2015.
Right. And I do wonder if some of that magic is lost now with, young photographers who are getting into photography and it's all about Photoshop or it's about editing something and it has that immediacy to it and you can do it in the sunlight and you can do it in a bright room. And
Mhm.
can you elaborate on magic is a strong word.
I
What-
mean,
what's
just
magic
like,
about that?
like you said, like everything's so digital nowadays, and like for something to just like appear the way it does on photo paper in the dark room, the chemicals mixing with the silver gelatin and stuff like that, it's really magic. And the first time I saw it, I really didn't believe it. So, and that's magic at its finest.
That's well stated. No, I agree. And yeah, as like sappy as that sounds or cliched as
Hmm.
that sounds, I surrender to it. You know what I mean? It
Yeah.
has that power for sure. I wonder though, I remember, pre-digital, everybody talked about that magic.
Hmm.
And I remember seeing that thing come up in the tray and being like, ooh, that feels like magic. But the magic also had a lot to do with the idea of framing the world in front of you, where at least for me, it was kind of like, oh, I could make I could make my own little mini world here by, you know, what I'm choosing, you know.
Right.
And, you know, in looking at your work and the way you kind of, it's all people, I think, in my awareness of it.
Hmm.
And there's a feeling that we know these people and they're not really happy, they're not really sad, but it's kind of like, I get the feeling in looking at your work, like, oh, here's this community. And then some are friends, some are family, here's this world. It seems to me, and maybe because you were shooting all in the same town or the same type of land, it has this feeling of like we're peering into this like one little small town or something like that,
Hmm.
whether it is or isn't. Is that a conscious decision, or do you think it's just kind of evolving that way?
I think it's just kind of evolving that way because I mean, me looking at it, and it's not even in the same town. So I think it's just I guess my way of working and the way of setting up my style anyways. I think it just kind of all lays along the same line, and
Right.
it kind of creates that motif of like the same world, that everybody's in the same world.
Well, there's that. Well, there's also nothing seems very modern in this world.
Hmm.
Like, and then you know, it just seems like it's a landscape of like trees with no leaves on them and these kind of like bleak winters and I don't know, but whatever it does, it kind of it creates a feeling is one big thing, you know.
Yeah.
Let's look at more of your work.
Okay.
And I think you've broken up your work into some stories here.
Uh-huh.
Um, but so you can lead this however you want. But after that statement, you know, that power of Disney was such a strong thing in that statement. Do you have work that relates directly to that?
I do. I don't have like a whole bunch of it, but I do have a few images that kind of relate to it or kind of like have a nod to it.
Mhm.
So I can bring those up. Okay. So can you see this image?
Not yet. Oh, there it is. Yeah.
There it is. Okay. So yeah, so this image, this one has to do. So my favorite Disney movie is Mary Poppins. So I kind of wanted to do an image that kind of related to that, but also kind of had to do with this kind of like bad luck kind of motif. And I don't know. It was in this hallway outside of my apartment, and this ladder was already there. And this is my friend who I worked with down in Disney when I worked for the company down there.
Right.
She was up visiting, so I thought it would be interesting to make this story kind of come to life between our friendship, how I view her as a person, and then also how we met through our love for Disney.
Oh, interesting. What's your attraction to Mary Poppins?
Um, for me, it's kind of it's been my family's kind of favorite movie. We'd always watch it as when I was a kid, and it's just kind of been the thing that I've always gone back to. It's one of those things, stable things in my life that, like, you know, if I'm feeling sad, like that's comfort to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting.
And then the next one I have is this one, and this was part of my BFA work, and it ties in with my statement. And this one just is kind of like a reflection of me and how my relationship to Disney has kind of changed and progressed over the years, and my viewing of it has evolved from fairy tales and pixie dust to a rather stern and serious and vulnerable kind of thing for me.
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, when I first saw this photo, I think it was when I was a visiting artist, there was something that was like with the nudity that was like, I don't know if it was more, there was a harsh honesty about it.
Hmm.
And with the wall and the picture being kind of old, it almost looks like maybe you had it since you were little or something like that, you know, the poster.
Yeah.
You know, it had this kind of, uh, yeah, kind of harsh honesty to it or something like that.
Yeah, I
The
agree.
um, as a student creating this, were the fellow students and teachers like, what? Why is Mickey Mouse in this photo? You know, like, were they searching for an answer to that?
Um, I don't think so, because the large format class which I made this image in was the first class after I came back from Disney. So everybody kind of already had that preconceived knowledge that, they knew I just came from there. And even my teacher was like kind of surprised by how serious my work was when she found out that I was like a Disney fan, and she thought that I was going to be this like twinkly, sparkly kid that like, really did believe in all that kind of stuff. And so when I made this image, she was kind of shocked. So,
Yeah,
and that's
yeah,
the story behind that.
right. No, that's interesting. Um, yeah, it's interesting to see how these themes work through. Let's look at these other kind of projects. And I think you were showing your or your friend's project if you want to revisit that.
Yeah. Let me pull it up.
Yeah, and let's go through these
Did
and
it
just
pop
kind of,
up?
yeah, walk us
Okay.
into this.
Okay. Well, that first one, I'll go back. This first one is my friend Ashley. Well, I don't want to explain all of them, but this one's of my friend Ashley. This was one of my first portraits I made, and this kind of was like the starting point for me and how I wanted to make my style come across and stuff like that.
Oh,
And how,
really?
yeah, and this image really helped me see light as well, even though it's not like that prominent nor important in this image, but I definitely was shown how to show light and how it reads in silver gelatin. So,
Yeah, the 4x5 is able to really pull things out of all sorts of subtle lighting situations, I think,
mm-hmm,
This
I
one's
agree.
beautiful.
Thank you. And most of these, I mean, they kind of are just like I said, little snippets into their lives and a little bit about their story. Um, but I think all of these could be developed into a bigger story if I spent more time with them, which I definitely want to.
Yeah. So when you're trying to make a picture about your friends, is it kind of like your hope is to get one that kind of tells the story? Or, are you is your goal to do a picture story, or is it like photographing a relationship over time? Like, do you have ideas on that?
Yeah, I think initially when I first started out and I really wasn't exactly sure what I was photographing for, it was just kind of a one picture kind of thing where I was trying to capture their whole story in one image, which I mean, some of them do a pretty good job, but now the way I'm working, I think I do want to go back and revisit and have maybe a couple different images, 3 to 5, and then a couple bigger projects too, to help really tell the story of each friend or family member or person that I encounter.
Right. I mean, it seems as if your friends are very willing to take you seriously as a photographer, if that makes any sense.
Hmm.
Like, they are committed
Yeah.
to working on this with you, it seems, as opposed to, well, just take a picture, Um,
Right. Right. Yeah, I don't think my friends have really ever completely understood why I'm using the camera I'm using. I've explained it here and there, but they have always been so willing and open and trusting of me, and they pretty much do whatever I say. And I think, at the end when they see the final image and they see the results of it, they like the image themselves, so they're willing to make another image if I want to.
right.
And I think since I'm so comfortable with the camera too, that makes them more willing to sit for a photograph as well.
Hmm. There is a feeling amongst your friends of, like, you refer to it in your statement as somber, and one could call it depressing, or like there is a
Mhm.
melancholy, I would say. And do you feel that that
Yeah, I
reflects
agree.
them, and or this period of life, or you, or where is that coming from?
Um, I think it's kind of a mixture of everything. You know, especially with Disney, like it's really opened me up as a person to kind of like realize that, you know, people put on facades, and like that's what we have to do as cast members too every day. So my what I want to do in my photos is try to show like the behind the scenes kind of part of the people and this facade that they put on every day.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I use the term somber and stuff, and even depressing too, but like, you know, some of them do kind of have a little bit of a ray of hope in them, I guess you could say,
Oh,
without being too
absolutely.
cliche. But
Yeah. No, I think they do for sure. So now, are you shooting like it's all at Bowling Green, or where are a lot of
no,
these?
so it's all over. The ones I'm currently cycling through, they're taking a second to load, but these ones are from, I studied abroad in Italy. So these ones were of my roommates that I was living with while I was over there. And then some of the other ones, I don't want to zip past these, but I will. Like this one, for example. This one's in Bowling Green, and then a lot of them are in my hometown too of Canton. And then we have like a secondary farmland that we have that my dad hunts on and stuff. So I don't know if these are loading. Are they loading on your end?
They're still loading. So yeah, give it time to land. I think it's a large
Yeah,
ship or something.
it must be. There it goes. Yeah, so they're in the farm is in Navarre, so um they're kind of all over. Most of them are in between Canton and Bowling Green, but then I do have the images from Italy as well, which is in Florence.
Right, right. Oh, interesting. Yeah, so they really are from all over. Hey, let's
Yeah.
talk about this picture, because this one, which is a girl with a washing machine, this one always I mean, immediately when I saw it, there was a wow factor, and then there was a little more surreal than a lot of your photos, because it seemed to be kind of a question as to what exactly was going on.
Right.
And then it just almost seems like there's some mystical symbol inside of the dish or the clothes washer with the door open, and it just had all these
Yeah.
that seem to be asking questions where your typical work is like about a person, you know.
Right.
And so, can you talk about this picture?
Yeah, and we kind of discussed this once before, and I wish this picture had a very like special meaning to me. But this picture is really just like a cool picture. I walked outside my apartment and this washing machine was just sitting out there,
Yeah,
which is so random. And I had a friend with me, and I wasn't going to take the picture because it wasn't really me. And I was like, well, doesn't really mean anything to me. But then we came back and it was still there, and I'm like, it's gonna bother me if I don't take a picture of it. So I made a photo of it, and you know, it's to my surprise, it came out extremely well, and I didn't expect all the blaring light to come out from behind it and the dark lines to come out next to it and adjacent to her. So,
yeah.
I mean, if I wanted to, I guess I could make up a story for it, but I really don't have a good one. But I don't think it necessarily needs to have one either. It can just be a cool picture.
I think that, yeah, and I like the idea too of a photographer who, you know, aspires to like bring people to life or to tell people stories, to at times just be like, well, it just looked cool and it was
Mhm.
fascinating, and maybe you can write your own story from it. And I'm totally okay with that. And I think sometimes that is an interesting path to follow, you know, for any artist or student.
Very much so.
Um, yeah, that really came together there. It was almost like I was actually thrilled that it had no story to it.
Thank you.
Uh, the that's really cool. I like a lot of the new images I saw in here too.
Thank you.
The let's look at some of the other kind of things you have pieced together here.
Okay, sounds good. The next one we can do, we'll do my friend Skylar. Let's see.
You know, and as I look at your work, I'm wondering, who are the photographers who influence you? Because it kind of has a timeless quality to it where it doesn't even look like 2020 necessarily, you know, and I'm wondering,
Right.
who are you looking at?
So my biggest inspiration for a while was Judith Joy Ross, and I was really studying her for a while. And Lynn helped me look at her, and a couple. Basically just female artists that I was really drawn to. Um, oh gosh. Oh, why am I blanking on names every time? The family images. What's her name?
Oh, Sally Mann?
Hallie Mann, yes. That's the images that really like sparked the whole family and friends kind of thing for me. I mean, I know her stuff is pretty controversial, but I don't know. I related to them in a couple different ways, and they were just so beautifully rendered that I wanted to like not copy her, but like have a couple of the same traits that she did with her images. So.
Oh, for sure. No, I'm a big believer in identifying those who are doing what you're doing and then trying to follow in their footsteps, you know,
Mhm.
like, and borrow what you can in this family tree of photography, because you
Right.
can never really copy anything, you know.
Exactly.
Judith Joy Ross's work, it brings to mind for sure. And
Mhm.
her stuff has this psychic power between the subject and the photographer that I cannot figure out how she does, really, you know.
Right.
And
Yeah, her
she
stuff
brings
is.
those kids to life, especially with children, you know,
Mhm.
I think.
Yeah, her school photos were beautiful.
Yep,
And
the
like
school stuff,
if I
absolutely.
ever worked for like commission or did like a project on like strangers and stuff, I would for sure want to do like a whole child series on like stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that one project is like, I mean, her all her stuff is great, but that one really speaks to me in like a psychic
Right.
way. It also reminds me of the work of Andrea Modica,
Mhm.
if you're familiar
Yeah.
with her.
Yes, I've looked at her work as well, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it is about the female photographers either, because I mean, there are some, but not as many. So, for a while it was like trying to find my own 2 feet and like trying to find my own style for a minute, but I think it works out.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I wonder, is it a bit cliched to be interviewing a woman who's using a 4x5 to photograph in black and white and then only mentioning women photographers? You know what I mean?
Right,
Like is that, you know, am I typecasting there or something? Yeah, I don't know, you know.
right.
Um
Yeah.
the this is beautiful. So what is this?
Yeah, so this is my friend Skylar. For a while now, she has been debating on whether she wants to transition and be a transgender woman.
Hmm.
And so this was kind of her story on how I view her and how her story is to me. Um,
Oh,
she
that's beautiful.
hasn't, gone through with it or anything, and so she's quite confused herself. And so I wanted to create images that were that had this omniscient light to them and like very blaring because it's such a heavy topic, especially for her, and it weighs down on a lot for her. So I really wanted to create that in an image for her. And she's always gone back and forth between whether she should, whether she shouldn't. So, and she's always had this kind of identity crisis that she doesn't know who she truly is.
Right.
And it's such a shame, but she's been so willing to let me kind of photograph her in such a way. And she also thinks the images capture her and um, how she's truly feeling.
Oh, she's truly into modeling and collaborating.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she loves it. I mean, she at first she really wasn't. This image was the first one we did together, and after this image, she was just really like open to letting me do whatever with her. So
Oh, that's a beautiful project. I didn't realize you guys had as many images there. Oh, that's great.
I think this is the last one. But yeah, thank you. So that's the end. Yeah, that's the end of this project. And I mean, not the end, but the end for now.
Yeah. So you feel that you would have access to her and you guys can collaborate on into the future.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, she lives here where I live currently, so we see each other all the time. She's my best friend from high school, so she'd
Oh,
be
you
more
should,
than willing.
oh, take advantage of that. No, it just, I didn't realize it was as much of a collaboration as it is, you know.
Mhm. Thankfully.
Yeah, no, that's real good. That's real good. The
Thank you.
That project is the one that actually didn't seem melancholy to me at all. It actually seemed hopeful. You know what I mean? Like, for all the kind of real, maybe internal confusion that the subject would have, that one actually seemed to be like, it had a little sense of humor to it. And then maybe because we saw her in multiple times in different situations, you got a feeling for her sense of humor or her personality.
Right. Oh, absolutely, yeah. And she has the biggest sense of humor too, so I'm glad that does read a little bit.
Yeah, no, it definitely does.
That's great.
Let's see what your next project is.
Yeah, so let's pull up this one. Okay. Did it pop up?
Yeah, no, that's the image.
Okay, cool. Cool. So this next project is about my friend Anna. And my friend Anna, we have been friends since first grade, and we're still friends now. And she has a developmental disability. And, as a kid, I really didn't understand that she was different to any means whatsoever. So, we were just friends. And then growing up, you kind of develop that sense of, oh, well, something's a little off. But, nonetheless, I never really judged her for that. And so now growing up, and now that we can kind of talk about it a bit more, she's expressed to me that how she does really feel like an outsider, and how she kind of feels like, and I've spoke with their parents too, that they view her as like stuck in this childhood sense. And so for me personally, like, this is my view on her and how I viewed her and how her family kind of views her too, is kind of locked out of this kind of sense of normality from the rest of the world. And it's a short little project, but she again is another person who's very willing to work with me, and she's here in my hometown, so I'd love to keep exploring this. And she absolutely loves the camera too.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like the pictures of her a lot too. I mean, the one we're looking at now, of her in the pajamas, let's go back to that.
I'll go back, yeah.
That was the first one that I saw that, it had these formal compositional elements, and then I wondered why she was in something that looked like pajamas and seemed too old to have the stuffed animal. But then there was the perfect Mona Lisa swirly road behind her.
Right.
Seemed like this kind of art history reference, and yeah, and the lock, and there were just many things to think about,
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't get a feeling for her personality,
Yeah.
as I see the other pictures, suddenly she comes to life more, and you see her more in these other, things.
Right, right.
Do you have any thoughts on the idea of like what you can accomplish with multiple images versus what you can accomplish with that one home run photo?
I mean, I've always been a fan of like triptychs, for example. And I think, at least, maybe this one that's on the screen now kind of like developed into this one.
Uh-huh.
And so, I don't know if this pairing or 3 pairings, per se works as a triptych, but I think, the idea of a triptych would help tell the story a little bit better, especially for, I mean, I've worked with her for a long time. I've been a friend with her for a long time, but, for me and for her too, it's kind of a bit harder to fully give herself and fully portray how she's feeling when I don't even exactly know how she's feeling either. So
yeah.
I think all 3 images, or a triptych in general, just kind of work together for her.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, no, that's real nice. Let's look at your next project.
Okay. So the next project I'll do is of my ex-boyfriend. And so we dated for 5 months, I think. And it was last year. And his biggest issue, and the biggest issue of our relationship too, was he had an alcohol problem. And like, not just like I'm a college boy and I like to drink, like it was an actual problem.
Yeah.
And I just really wanted to make images, and he was supporting of me, and didn't mind that I took a step in this this kind of covered up part of his life that he didn't even want to believe himself. So I think making these images was important for us as a relationship, and then him as well.
So these, I love these images, from the first time I saw them, and they're not as aesthetically, like say this one of him in the kitchen. It doesn't have that sensory wow factor that your other pictures have, but it is so just
Yeah.
honest. And, to me, I really respected it because I think that you think of students in college almost at this is like a drinking glory days type of
Right.
period where student kids are invincible and these things can just be fun. And I thought it shined a light on just the human aspect of these things, and that no, it isn't really always fun, or this can be a problem. And even my words don't even touch on what I like about the image, which is almost like I don't know what's happening here, but it almost looks like there's some shame, or there's some hangover, or there's some thing with his body language of self-pathos or something like that. And all of
Right.
that in this image, yeah, I thought was just real wonderful. And then
Thank
what's on the floor in this?
So that was just kind of there. It's just a skeleton leg, which is kind of like, I don't know. It's random, but it also kind of worked just because of, how messy and destructive that their parties would get. And so, like, of course, there's like this random leg in the photograph. And I think I kind of moved it in because it was already on the floor, like right there. But I was like, yeah, this has got to be in there.
So I'm curious, like the idea of working with a 4x5, as anyone who does it knows, but those who don't know, it's a slow process. And it's not like you're just holding the thing. You're setting up a camera in a tripod in a kitchen, and usually the lens isn't very wide necessarily. So this took some type of cooperation on his part.
Very much so. Yeah. Yeah, he I mean, like I said before, he was very trusting of the process. And as I was setting up the camera and as I was explaining like what this image is about and stuff, like it would just kind of open up our relationship more for him to be able to talk about his problem. And like it would kind of bring up some heat here and there, but I think it was good overall for him anyway. And then when he'd see the image at the end, or even the negative, like he was like, wow, well, that's exactly what you described. So
Yeah. No, these are nice. Let's look through these again so
yeah.
we can grasp them.
Mm-hmm.
I love that one. The odd things you get in college apartments, like there's a blowtorch, which is probably some drinking tool or something like that, or setting something on fire, and then all the alcohol and like that you learn to hide later in life, on display. And so only now is he looking at a phone?
Yeah, yep, he's looking at a phone.
Yeah, I never grasped that earlier, but I guess it doesn't matter. It has that the pose is ideal, for this. Let's look at the others in this.
And then this one is
a
self-portrait.
That one's beautiful.
Thank you.
Did you do a lot of pictures of the two of you together?
We did this one, and then we did one other one, but it didn't turn out. So yeah, this one, I think this one's one of my favorites too, just because of how personal it was of me at my time in my life and everything that was going on. So yeah, I love this image.
Absolutely beautiful.
It looks a lot better in silver gelatin too. Let me just say that.
I believe that. So I mean, you're directing this, right? Like you're saying to him, I want you to sit on the bed and look out the window so the light hits your face in this way, and then I'm gonna sit on the mirror. Like everybody knows what's happening, correct?
Yep. Yeah, everybody knows what's happening, and I mean, I don't even think that. Well, I was trying to set up the camera in the way that would splice us, and the room was so small and the camera's so big, but it turned out exactly how I wanted it to in my head. So I'm very pleased
seriously?
with it. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. He's in a mirror too.
Oh yeah, Yeah.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah.
actually grasped
Those
that.
are both mirrors. Like it's like a sliding door kind of mirror.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
that's
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
that.
such a great image.
That's the last one. And this is like this was after we broke up, so this was kind of like the mass and destruction kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's the end of that project. And I'll exit out of this. And then I'll do my family ones.
This is working out great. I love the organization that we
Thank you.
have in the beginning, and I feel like
Yeah.
I'm able to stay a little more focused on.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
I like all the new images too. I mean, do you have just like unending amount of images?
I wish I did, but no. There is a limit, thankfully. Well, I guess unthankfully, but yeah, no. I have a lot of images, but I think Lynn was also a big help in that. She loved making us make images every week. So.
Oh yeah, no, pushing you guys.
But it was also very draining too.
Say that again?
I said it was also very draining too.
Oh yeah, but you got the good work out of it. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like
very much
full
so.
body of work. You know.
Right.
The oh, okay, so now we're into a group of photos that is like family. The it's interesting, you know, that your dad surfaced in the first interview we did right at the beginning.
Right, right.
And we haven't seen him yet. But yeah, let's talk about these.
Yeah, so I'll cycle through these a little bit.
Sure.
Yeah, these are just different. Well, my family's kind of small. I'm an only child and my dad's an only child, so it's really just like my dad's parents who are the only ones who are alive, and then just my parents and then me. So it's a small but close-knit family, and so again, like they've always been really supportive of the work I've made and the work that I want to make. So I mean, my grandparents don't exactly understand it, but they've also been willing to take images for me. So, and it's been interesting to explore their lives too. I did a little series on my grandma, which is this image. This is part of it. And then this image is also part of it. And then here's the one of my dad that popped up before.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it looks like it's utter total cooperation, you know. Though it's funny, your dad surfaces so many times. Like it seems like you've got him. Like, do you have 5 images in this of him?
I would probably say 3 or 4, I think, unless I'm mistaken. But yeah, I mean, you know, his story is not as prominent as say my mom's, of course. But I think his life has been interesting to me, and like his persona has been interesting to me as well. So, you know, he's photo worthy in my opinion. But yeah, he's always been very willing to make images, and he thinks it's kind of fun. So
yeah, I like this picture a lot, and I think it's curious and almost like surreal combination of elements that you would think don't really go together. But then it all makes sense, and then he just seems like he's standing there in this kind of pose, feeling the sun like embrace his body or something like that.
Right.
Like
It's
as a
very
viewer,
like,
you can kind of relate to that.
right.
What inspired this, or what was going through your head with this?
Well, to me, like my dad has always been a very like, I mean, it's almost heroic. Like he's just always been like my best friend, and like when my mom can't be there for me, it's my dad. So, you know, he's been such an inspiration to me in my life, and been like, you know, I'm daddy's little girl. So, you know, this is kind of like a heroic kind of, I'm gonna go fight the sun with this random beehive that I have kind of thing. It's like it has a comedic sense to it, but it also is kind of like, you know, that's how he is. He's comedic, but also very heroic.
Yeah, no, it had that like ancient warrior, modern suburban dad mix up or something.
Right.
You know. Um, no, that's real nice. So is this a later image or a earlier image?
No, this is a later image. This one I made in October of 2019.
Mm-hmm.
So, and over the summer, like I knew I wanted to make this with like some fall lighting in the early morning and with the leaves all over the ground. So I waited a long time to make this image, and I'm so glad it came out the way it did.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So you think you had it in your head?
Oh yeah, I have a lot of images in my head, and that's usually the way I work. Like I just come up with an image in my head, and then when the chance comes around and when the timing's perfect and the stars align, then that's usually when I make it.
So
And
you
it has to be
knew,
right for the model too. I think that's
right,
important.
right. I mean, you knew that you'd have this wasp thing in the backyard?
Yeah, so my dad, well, this is like the farm that I was talking about that we have, and so my dad has has that like has like a little trophy, I guess you could say, hanging up in our barn with like the different mounts of deer that he's killed down there to people on.
Oh, serious. Oh, I didn't realize that at all. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so that's the story behind that. So it's kind of like a little prize that he has, even though he didn't really capture it or anything. He just cut it down out of a tree. So
Oh, that makes sense. Okay, because I almost thought he just cut it out that day and then was like, hey, can you take a picture with this? Oh, okay. So you are like getting the pieces like in the same way you did with that washing machine. You know what I mean? Like, let's put the
Mhm.
pieces together here.
Right, right, very much so.
Yeah, that's nice. Let's look through these again and see if you have
Yeah.
anecdotes on
There's the
these.
one of my grandma again.
Oh, that's sweet.
Um, we're back at the beginning. And then, so this kind of like goes hand in hand with the other one, I guess, if you want to
Oh, yeah.
say. This one's gonna take its time loading. Um, this one. This
So
one's
that,
my
who is that?
grandpa.
Is that your dad or your grandpa?
Yeah, no, that's my grandpa. That's my dad's dad.
Oh, okay.
But same location, same barn.
Right.
And then this is my step grandpa.
Oh, okay.
Hmm.
I love that one with that small town.
Thank you. Yeah, that's where he lives. He lives a little, it's like 10 minutes away in a city called Maslin. Maybe people know of it. And then same with this one of him and his dog. And then another one of my dad. And this one was one of my first images too I made portrait wise. So this one isn't like super meaningful, but like also it shows kind of like this is like what my dad is.
Oh, I no, I love all those appear into the garage for sure.
Right.
That yeah, he's got the muscle car.
Right, of course. And then my grandma again.
Ah,
Yeah,
that's
that's
beautiful.
it for that. So
So
that's that
you are
project.
totally, it's all natural light. It's all available light, correct?
For the most part, I mean, like, well, yeah, it's all available light, yeah.
Yeah, that works really well.
Yep, I don't have, thank you. Yeah, I think that's just, I don't have any, like, lights that I set up or anything like that, so just, I use what I have, and so far it's worked pretty well, so that's thankfully for that.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, it's beautiful. So now I know that you've photographed your mom in various pictures that I've seen randomly over time, and so what are we going to look at here?
So, the story of my mom is kind of, she's always kind of been this person who's not very confident in herself and she doesn't view herself as beautiful. And recently she's kind of taken a downward spiral of depression and anxiety. And then she also had a surgery to replace her hip. So nothing like super drastic or major, but she's always just had these difficulties with herself and her self-esteem. So for me, and my mom's my best friend, so for me, like this was a very important story for me to tell. And so these images are kind of like her story of how she is overcoming her depression and anxiety and how I view her as beautiful while she doesn't really see herself in that light. and her also this one is like her story of like hoarding and stuff, which also pays a nod to Disney with the pillow.
There is a Disney reference in there. I always love these images of your mom because it seemed to me like you were shooting her like you guys are peers, in a way. Like,
Hmm.
it seemed like almost you approached her in the same way you shot your friends.
Right. And I think it was, because she's not very comfortable, obviously, with herself. So then to put her in front of a camera, it's kind of like, and then expose her in a way, it was kind of very vulnerable for her to do, as well as for me to kind of open up my life into this side of it as well. But also, it has like hopeful qualities to some of the images and not so depressing.
Oh, I didn't think this project was depressing at all.
Yeah,
I think I probably first encountered it as a project on Instagram,
right.
where I think you had a title to some of them, or one of them that was like, along the lines of like, "You're beautiful to me. I want to show you how beautiful I think you are," or something like that.
Right, yeah, this image is the one you're referring to. It's called Deteriorating Beauty. And for her, like, like I said, she really doesn't view herself as beautiful and she thinks she's overweight and she has all these beauty products that are sitting next to her and then the mirror and the blaring light coming from behind her. And so, it's kind of an image for me to show her that like you view yourself in this way, but here's how I view you.
Mm, mm. It's
And it has that hopeful quality to it.
absolutely and royal quality to it. Like you are paying tribute to her and honoring her. Yeah, no, I just thought it was wonderful in that way. But I thought they all kind of felt like that. You know what I mean? Like even when you were photographing her in
Mhm.
bed, stuff like that, where it seems like she's maybe recovering from something, it has that kind of uh, respect to it. And yeah, and like even amidst the hoarding, let's look back at that. And I guess you're
Yeah,
the one who labeled it hoarding, but I guess that is what it is.
right.
Um, oh, I don't know. There's something where it seems like she is connecting with you. She has no problem giving you total access with no
Right.
inhibitions. Um, yeah, and that kind of openness, whether it's this or whether it's just the nudity where she's letting you photograph her in the shower. That's a lot, you
It
know.
is a lot. And I'm so very thankful that she's so willing to, be open and allow me to do this. I mean, if it were anybody else, obviously it wouldn't be the same story. But since I am her only child, like we have become best friends over the years. So, and, she trusts me to paint her in the way that I see her. And this has really been it.
So does she care what the photos look like?
I think she does. I've never really asked her this, but I think she cares to an extent, not about how she looks, but just in general, like the story of it and how she's perceived. But yeah, I think uh, I think her insecurities kind of go away when she's looking at these. But I don't want to speak for her or anything. But
Yeah,
I
no,
think,
that's fair.
yeah, I almost think that when she looks at them, she's not even really looking at herself in the way that she sees it. She's looking at it how I see her.
Hmm. That makes sense. The do you feel she enjoys having your picture taken, or is she simply trying to support you?
Um, I think it's a little bit of both, but I think it's more so she's trying to support me, but I think more so, or I think more recently that she, enjoys it a bit. She sees the way that my dad is about it and she likes the way that he gets excited about it. So I think she's becoming more comfortable around the camera. I mean, she was never unwilling to take it, but she, there's always that quality where she's a little insecure about herself, so.
Nobody over 40 wants to pose for a photo who's not
Right.
like a model. Like
Exactly.
so now this picture we had talked about a little bit in a previous interview, but this one kind of stands out in a way that it's kind of feels like some of the other pictures, it looks like you're looking at her.
Mm-hmm.
And then this one, it looks like you guys kind of teamed up together to take a funny photo or something like that.
Right. I mean, initially, I don't think it really came off, or it wasn't intentionally supposed to be funny, but the way it came out, just kind of like everything's all backwards, and the way that she's just kind of like looking at the roots of this fallen tree and then sitting on it, and then the playground in the background is the thing that's lit up and not her. And then there was a conversation that I had with Frank Golke, who was another visiting artist at Bowling Green State.
Mm-hmm.
And he was saying that it was very comedic to him, and he thought that I should name it "Can I have this seat?" or "Is this seat taken?" And
Oh, that
so
was a good idea. Oh, I thought that was her idea. Oh, that's
no,
cool.
it was not her idea, but she totally agreed with it because she thought it was hilarious too once he kind of put that on there. And so I was like, well, how can I not? And so it's kind of a comic relief now in all my other images.
It's still a serious image. I don't view it as any lesser than any of your other images, but
Yeah.
it did seem to me almost as if the two of you were collaborating on something as opposed to, Mom, let me take your picture here. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, and that's kind of how it went.
Yeah, and that adds a real positive vibe to that, you know, or
Mhm.
to the body of work as well, because you get the feeling of the relationship as opposed to just like, I'll do whatever she says, you know.
Right. And
The
like down the road, I would like to. I mean, the project's already kind of big now as it is, but I don't really mind that. So I think down the road, I'd like to make an image of me and her as well. I have a couple 35 images of that of us together, but I haven't explored that with the 4x5 yet. So I will definitely have to do that when I get the chance.
Oh, that's super exciting. That's
Yeah,
super exciting.
I'm very excited.
So, you know, I wanted to, we'll let you go soon,
Okay.
but I wanted to, you know, you just graduated. And so why don't you share, like, do you have plans, you know?
Yeah. So I just graduated and I just moved back home, and I live 3 hours away from Bowling Green. And so currently right now I'm taking care of my mom. She just had the surgery. So after she's all fixed up and ready to go, I think I'm gonna apply to a new community darkroom if they're hiring. I want to explore that. It's in Akron, so it's about 20 minutes north of Canton.
Yeah.
And I'd be super excited to work there as like a lab tech or something,
Oh, that'd
and
be great.
just be surrounded by other photographers still, since now that I've left college and I don't really have any art friends around here, it's kind of sad. So it'll be nice to get back into somewhere where I can have similar friends who have a similar passion
Oh,
despite the
for
age
sure.
difference.
Yeah, no, for
And
sure.
then down the road, probably 2 years maybe, depending on where I am in my life at that point, I do want to look into grad school. I think that it would be a great opportunity for me to expand on my images and my passion for photography. And yeah, I think it'll be, if I decide to be a teacher, that'll open up a few doors too, of course, with a master's in photography. So
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. The
that's the short term goal.
are you able to be making, like, do you have a 4x5? Are you able to make images now?
So currently I don't have a 4x5. I just turned it back in. So unfortunately, as of right now, I can't make images, which is absolutely killing me. But I am planning at the end of this week, as soon as I get a check in the mail, that I will definitely be sitting down and looking on eBay and a couple different places to get my own 4x5. And that'll
Right.
be so nice to have my own.
Oh, no, for sure. For sure. Wow. Hey, this was great. And thank you so much for doing this. And yeah, I actually think your work looks even better than it looked the first time we did it. The first time.
Well, that's exciting to hear.
Yeah, you've got so much good stuff. The we can wrap this up now. Thank you so much for sharing all this, and just look forward to seeing what you do on into the future.
Well, thank you so much, and I want to say thank you, and thank you to everybody who's listening. And I also want to say that, like, if you're a photographer and you're in this medium, it's a beautiful medium, and you should never give up on it, and especially with black and white.
Ah, that's beautiful. That's
Thank
beautiful.
you.
Hey, thank you, Maria.
Thank
We
you so
will.
much.
Yep, we will let you go.
Bye bye.
Thanks. Bye bye.